everybody. Welcome back to this. I'm your host, Shauna Griffiths. And today's Real Talk is with a real leader who is next gen, but I'll tell you what, he blew my mind on the first conversation that I had with him. So folks, I am so excited to welcome to the show Xavier Jackson. He is very much focused on creating a dynamic space for athletes in business. And we are going to get into all the amazing stuff he's doing, including leading not one, but two businesses. So Xavier, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I'm telling you. So folks, I try to give you context whenever I bring people on. And so this one's actually kind of funny because I was on IG one day and Xavier's post started popping up for me. And so I was like rabbit holing and stuff and really impressed with what he was doing. And I DM'd him and I was like, oh, wait, I'm not creeping. And he started laughing. I was like, I'm not the creepy old woman over here. I just was like so impressed with what you're doing. So as I said, I'm going to get right into talking about what you're doing. So you're the president of a company called Coinlete, and you are the founder and CEO of a company called Bizlete. So tell the audience, what are those companies and what are you doing?
Okay, yeah. So Coinlete, it's a SaaS platform that connects athletes and brands. How I got into that, me coming out here originally, as soon as I got done playing basketball in school at VCU, I immediately went straight into the business world. Probably like 4 months after being in college, I had my own auto detailing business. And some of my friends went to go play professional. One in particular, Royce, kind of just was just seeing what I was doing and gave me the opportunity to come out here in Utah and just kind of learn and be around the game at a high level and be around individuals that was doing a lot of good things in the business world and sports. And from there, just, from being that go-to guy and kind of just like, helping them, I was able to meet my partner, Brett. And my partner, Brett, he was, in the process of creating this platform that was essentially what I was doing, but it was going to allow me to scale myself. And the component that I was able to bring in was like what he was missing. And I already originally had an idea that I was trying to create similar to what we was, what we pushing out now. But I just didn't have what he was able to bring to the table. So he was able to come together with me and we was able to merge that. And he took the role of CEO, I took the role of president. And now we just basically, pushing it forward. And Bizlete, that's more so like a passion project that I created because, from being in this, and once you start to work with athletes, you see a lot of individuals, specifically, aspiring agents, or I noticed that like when a lot of players get done playing, some of them that want to potentially get into the business world or, want to work with athletes and helping them facilitate deals or do some things similar to what I'm doing. They was asking me to kind of like help them get it. And I was basically tired of just having the same conversation over and over and over and over and over. So, I felt like it would be best if I created a community where I was able to bring these individuals together, bi-weekly and bring on some of the people that allowed me to advance in my growth, and, give them the same looks because as being an athlete, sometimes you don't know what your passion may be outside of the sport. So for me, what helped me understand what my transition factors was just by me being around individuals that was just successful across all industries. So I like spend time with a dude who made like $1 million in real estate. I was like, nah, that's probably not how I want to get my million. Or, I was around some other people that was just doing things in finance. I don't, that's not my lane. But then I was starting to see people that was making a lot of money from just helping CEOs or high net worth individuals grow their brand and helping them, add on additional income streams or helping companies grow and having a better ROI on their product or services. So when I seen that, I was like, okay, that fit more in my lane. And then I just niched it to like athletes. And then that's what, birthed my role of what we do in Coinlete. So I just kind of wanted to create that community of me basically building way more of me so I can implement them inside of our Coinlete platform and essentially grow that over time. So that's kind of like the basis of both platforms. They kind of work tangent. So I kind of look at it as really just two different parts. One for people that's aspiring, that's going to be using the platform to help innovate the business deals of what the athlete's going to be like in the future. And then one to actively be the vehicle for athletes to basically, go find these deals and learn about how to be more successful when they get done playing and while they are playing, making sure that they're keeping their money. And we have less and less stories of athletes going broke and losing money, and more stories of athletes creating successful companies and being successful, like, some of the biggest athletes of the day. So that's kind of like the basis behind both platforms.
Wow. So thanks. You mentioned in there about your growth. So we talk a lot on this platform about evolution, and I think that like just evolving as humans, very much that growth mindset is something I recognized in you right away. And I know you talk about, like, I've seen videos where you talk about this, and then you actually told me this story about, you've been given certain opportunities, and a difference for you is that you jumped on these opportunities. You really you dive in when you see opportunities. So talk to us a bit about like your growth, your evolution. So you said you played basketball at the collegiate level, and it's funny because you're still quite in your early stages of your, the working world. So like, you clearly have made a huge leap from playing to being a player in the business landscape. So talk about that, like that growth and that evolution. What's that been like?
Being an athlete at the end of the day, like that's like a natural quality of being in that sport or whatever sport you play, because constantly you having to evolve your skill sets. If you become stagnant in your development, take a hit, obviously you're not going to be able to compete at the highest level. And as you continue to level up, you're not going to be able to transition and have the same impact that you had, at previous levels. So in order for you to always continue to like impact anything in life, it requires growth. I believe like when you stop growing, you stop living. Obviously that's how just the world works. Everything has its own, transitional phases, and nothing stays the same. And it's just up to you. Like, you're going to age regardless. So if you're taking care of your body as you're getting older, you may have less health risks. If you putting in bad things within your body over time, you're going to go down and, have more health problems down the line. So I feel like that's like a universal law, when it comes to just like life and living. It's just, you have to always put yourself in a position to like grow. So when it comes to that, that was like a natural skill set. That was something that just really, I don't even really put my mind onto it, because I just feel like that's like what abundance is, and like, life is. It's just constantly, evolving and being persistent. And then what contributed to my growth and what allows me to grow in the right way, because it's a such thing as also, growing and doing things and putting in work, but not actually doing it, not getting positive effects because you're not doing it the right way. And I was able to alleviate that from just being around individuals that are already successful, and that's already where I want to be at, because it's like an immediate indicator in front of your face to see what you're not doing or what you are doing right. So you can look at them and say, oh, that's why they keep closing them deals, because they attentive and they they ask these type of questions first, and they always on to what they do. And then at that moment, you get to kind of see, all right, I'm definitely not doing that. When I was talking to them, I was trying to sell them first. I was trying to go in, trying to go get the deal. And then you just kind of get to, be able to look forward and then come back and then see where you have to grow. Because most of the life is about becoming the person you need to become to achieve the results. So like, once I understood that, then it was just a pursuit of me just, becoming more and more educated inside my craft or whatever I was bringing to the world, finding more innovative ways for me to, provide value for individuals to come to me and say, okay, this is like, what I want to follow. This is the community I want to be around. Then being around individuals that, because obviously me being young, I have to patch that up with experience. Experience only can come through me doing it, or for me putting somebody that's already been through it and adding them to the team. So, all of the things that I are seeing on my as having a weakness within my business, I make sure that I just want to go, make it a strength, whether it may be from somebody else providing it or whether it may be just from me learning it. But I just knew that like, if I went onto this journey, that I had to become like the person I needed to become. And I reverse engineer what that would need to look like for me to like, become that person. And then basically every day tapped it.
Yeah. You hit on so many topics I want to dive into a bit. Like, I love when you're talking about that, because there's a bit of like modeling. So, if you actually you have a self-awareness of where you're strong or where you need to grow, and that constant foot on the gas, that practice to evolve and grow. But it's also, you put people in your path who you can model yourself around. And so I love that you brought that up. And then you also touched on the word abundance, where I love your focus on that. And I have to say, folks who are listening, it's when we had a conversation, when Xavier and I had a conversation, and he was talking about abundance, and then I see him posting about it. It's actually been a real light that's come into my world by you saying that. And so I thank you. It's been one of those things that I've kept out in front of me since our conversation as like a beacon. And it's like been a mantra for me, because I think, we all have moments where we feel, stuck, or we're feeling like, that things aren't going our way and all that kind of stuff. And so, even I was telling you earlier about the experience that, health problems that we had in my family, we had last month. And even through that, I was thinking of that word abundance. I was thinking about that mindset of all the good things that came. And so I just want to pause here and ask you to give people an understanding of, where does that focus for you come, and how do you use the word? How do you use the theory of abundance in your everyday? Because it's really inspirational.
Yeah. So it was funny because I learned that word in college, and it was at a phase in my life where it was not the best phase, to be honest, because it was around that time where, for the first time ever in my life, I was thinking about doing something outside of playing basketball. So, at that moment in my career, I was not, excited or happy about where I was at. And it was like, I felt low-key depressed for like a long time, kind of like a little over a month, which is like long for me, of just, not really being myself and not really having like a positive outlook on life. And then I started to notice something like, what you project is what you receive. So I was like, because I'm having this feeling and because my attitude and my energy is putting out this output, this is what I'm receiving back. And it was just thing that was making me continuously more depressed over and over again. That's why that streak was essentially lasting so long, of me just having like blow after blow after blow. I was mad I was not playing. And next thing you know, my tire and my car, and next thing you know, I'm in school and things like that. So when I was noticing that we have more control than we think we have, and I was able to understand that like life is going to be a reflection of the output that I put out. Then I started to try to fill my mind with like the best things that I could potentially think about. And I was like, I was trying to find like a number, and I was thinking like affinity at that moment. I was like infinity. I was just like, and then I was like, what is something that's just like, it just don't stop, like it's just like no cap for it. It's like too much, like, and then at that moment it came abundance. I was like, okay, like that word right there, I felt, it was like when I said it, I felt it,
Yeah.
And then when I felt it, then at that moment I projected it. Then when I projected it, then the world came back to me and reflected it. And then when the world reflected it, it was like, okay, now I found my sauce. Like I'm never going back. Like, this is basically how I'm going to live. I noticed that when I go and I tell people it put them in a better space, which in return always reflected back, and something more positive towards me. I know that within my life, the way that I was looking at life from my perspective, because life is all about perspective and how you view what your life is and your outcomes is. And when I looked at it at that moment, I was like, actually, I got a free scholarship. I played on ESPN. I was able to build a community and a network of individuals. And then after I started to add on all those things that I needed to be grateful for, because that's another word that I use, gratitude. And then once I started to feel that feeling of just like all of the things that actually was positive about my life, rather than one little thing that I was deeming as negative, then at that moment I realized like, damn, the power of thoughts really, put you in order your steps when it comes to your life. So for me at that moment, when I knew that I control this, then I just basically centered myself around the most powerful words to, bring forth those affirmations to acquire what I want to acquire. And ever since then, to be honest, like my life has just been pure abundance. Like, the things that I do, places that I've been, the things I've been able to experience, the people that I be around nowadays. I just look at myself and I laugh, like to think that like a couple years ago I was playing sports, and my parents and my family, they've been working their whole lives, and for me to like transition into their world, and not only to be able to live comfortably off of my own ideas, like, never had a job within like the past 3 years, and to be able to, travel and be around some of the most, highest individuals in the world. And at the time I did some of these things when I didn't have nothing. I have no money. So at that moment, that's when it just kept proving it in life. Like, damn, how am I doing this? I don't got no bread. It just, people was coming in like, and things was just ordering in steps. So half of the things that sometimes we think that we need in order for us to do what we need to do, we don't need. We just need to be able to be positive and reflect that. And then what the world's going to do is kind of give you the resources in its own unique way for you to kind of like bring it together. And then you'll notice that like all I need in life is just to bring the attitude, bring the persistence, bring the mentality, bring the work ethic. And at the end of the day, everything else is going to come back to me, if that makes sense. Because we only can control what we can control, And like that's kind of like what faith is about. It's impossible to have faith in worry. It don't even work that way. It's like you don't even go that route. So like can't be worrying about anything and say that you have faith at the same time. So when I start to look at things of that nature and, my mind start to like evolve around that, then the world start to come to me back in that way. So yeah, that perspective definitely, changed a lot of things for me and others. And as I continue to rise, then the world will continue to rise. And then this perspective will continue to get out in the world. And then more people will be, living in their abundance as well.
I'm so glad that you gave everybody a taste of what I am just so taken by. So thank you for sharing that. And folks, it was funny because we had this phone call first. We weren't on video. And I said, we were just saying our hellos. I said, hi, how are you? And he said, abundant. And it literally made me stop. I was like, in all the conversations I have ever had, no one has ever said that. And it just made me think, and I actually posted about it that week, but it just made me think, like, what if more people did that? Like, how many people are doing that and thinking that? It's usually like good or fine, or I'm not doing so well. And you just, you really set that intention for the call. You set that intention, you let me know what you were about. So I love the way you answered that way. And I think it's so true what you said, like the way we speak to ourselves matters. It sets up, and even when you were talking through it and you're like, this is my philosophy about, how I approach the world and with abundance. And, you think of all these things and you can just keep going. And if you actually think about it, I bet you anything that was a lot like your philosophy on the court, playing basketball, like you couldn't put your head down and mope about if you missed a shot or you didn't block out your guy and he got the ball or whatever the thing is. Like you had to keep hustling. You had to keep improving. And that's what you talked about earlier. You kind of likened it to that mindset of an athlete. And so that keeps coming up for me recently. And so I think it's like, whether someone's an athlete or not, we all still have that ability to have that type of mindset.
Exactly. So funny is I got that mindset after I stopped playing. I wish I had it when I was playing. I couldn't make it that far without that mentality. So that's crazy what I've been. But like that's why I'm giving it back to the world now. So for the athletes that's playing now, just making sure that like they have that. But definitely that would have been like, a differentiating factor within, everything else, because obviously it's been doing it in my real life. So I only imagine if I had this type of thought process while I was playing, what type of athlete I would have been.
Well, I bet you had it to some degree to play at the level that you did, and then for you to, I think it's like tangential, you brought it to this phase of your life. And I think that a lot of times it's really hard to adjust, to adapt to the next phase in your life. I remember after I had played college basketball and then I was working in the MBA family in marketing. And then even when I stopped, it was like each one of those transitions, I had a really hard time, And so I think it's just, I had a bit of identity crisis and things like that. So I love the awareness that you're bringing to it as you're going through your journey, because I'm sure it's helpful along the way.
Yeah, for sure.
So talking about transitions and stuff, so you went from Atlanta to Utah. And you went from playing at the collegiate level to now working like you do, leading two businesses and, with this really influential network around you. So what's that adjustment been like? And how do you make it look so damn easy?
Honestly, that's what I'm, if anything, I probably can't put words to that, only because it's like, it's like everything is really like a blur, but I'm in the moment.
Yeah.
Kind of like I'm trying to live a full life. When I look back on it, and I'm older, I just want to look back on my life and I don't want to really have no regrets. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like basically how I'm living my life. It's just like, everything is an adventure. Everything is a new challenge. Everything is just like exciting right now. Everything is just like, okay, yeah, like when I was in Atlanta at the time, I went from, so when my friend Race hit me up in the off season, they go to Miami to go train and prepare for the next season. And at that time, he was like, yo, come to Miami, just come kick it, vibe out. And I went to Miami from Georgia, obviously summer clothes. From leaving there, he was like, yo, you want to go to Utah? I was like, I don't got no clothes. He was like, man, don't worry about that. We figured out when we get there. At that moment, that's the type of person I am. Like, when that opportunity came, I'm like, I don't got no kids. I'm young. This not really, like I know what I got in Atlanta, but at the same time, like I'm 24. I can't say no to these type of opportunities. And like, this is what other people would say no to, but I can't take that chance. So obviously, worst case scenario, worst case scenario is that I go back to Atlanta and do what I'm already doing. Yeah. Best case scenario is I learn, meet individuals, and I put myself in a position that I never thought I'd be in. So it turned out that way, Yeah. I learned, met some people, put myself in a position, but that never comes without you going towards the thing that's going to scare you the most and bring you the most excitement. So 9 times out of 10, we all have these opportunities in our life that requires like a leap of faith, and are you going to match the challenge? That's what it ever comes down to. Like, are you going to match the calling? Are you going to accept it? Are you going to be able to live up to the plate? And like, that's what thrills me, So every time, within my life, I was just able to receive all these opportunities, the abundance of opportunities that come in my life. And as I was filtering through them, each one that brings me the most excitement and brings the most challenge, I'm going towards, because I know that if I'm able to conquer that, then that's what's going to give me the growth that I need for me to be at the next highest level. So my next opportunity just came in Utah. So I didn't think twice. I was like, all right, let's get it. And then we went right there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So the friend that you mentioned actually plays for the Utah Jazz, correct?
Yeah, of course.
Yep. So that actually gets me to something I want to talk to you about, which is the circle of people you have is really influential. And so I'm curious your thoughts around, you do hear people sometimes they can either get taken advantage of, or, I'm sure there's a dynamic where you have to be mindful about who you let into your circle. And, again, it's happened really quickly, which is another reason to be even more mindful about who you let into your circle. And so I'm curious, is that my perception? Do you feel like you do need to be protective to some degree? Like, can you talk about that dynamic at all?
Yeah. So, you just kind of know, you just kind of know, like attract likes at the end of the day. So you just kind of see individuals that want to help, add value, and then you see individuals that are trying to take. So at the end of the day, like they're their own man. I'm not the bridge to what they do and decisions or anything of that nature. Like, these dudes are grown. For me, I play a specific role in just filtering out individuals, and obviously they don't have the time to go make these meaningful relationships and build these type of contacts for them to grow themselves. So I just take the initiative of doing the same thing that made them, trusting me, because at the end of the day, these are my friends, prior to them being in the situation that they was in. So I never looked at them as, athletes or professional basketball players, like how the world kind of viewed them. Like, that's just my homie. So from me having that relationship, and, I'm not really into the lifestyle or getting caught up into things that's going on, because at the end of the day, it's like, that's what they at. Right. They're in that situation. They, live that type of lifestyle. And then me, I found my own lane for me to be able to help. And I found my own lane for me to provide value. Business is all about solving problems. So it's a big problem always that's been in the athlete community, of them not knowing what to do when they done. And basically sometimes them losing money. So from that, I just do a deep focus on being the best at being able to provide that type of value to them. And then from my way of doing it, it attracts, athletes, and then we go and, make magic happen. And then people that's come around, the university do a good job of just making the right people stick and the right people go away.
Okay.
And it's been peaceful process up until this point, but it's easily identifiable when you just get to see an individual that's not in alignment because they start to ask more than give. So like that's kind of like indicators that when somebody comes to me, well, initially coming out the back, letting me know what they have and what they want to get out of it and what they want to do with me without bringing back forth that value or figuring out a way for both parties to win. If it just seems one-sided, then that's just like an easy for me to be like, honestly, that's not probably the vibe, that they want to be around with or with you. And that's kind of how it is. So I don't really play like, protector because I don't feel like that's my property that I own. I just play an additional piece and I stand out and something that they naturally gravitate towards because unlike others, they're trying to, get in or trying to like, do more to build that relationship with them. And me, I'm just being myself. Yeah. And one thing about athletes is they respect two things. A person that is moving and achieving success that's just like them because they feel like, all right, I don't need that person and that person don't need me. And they respect things that's already trusted and verified, meaning that brands that's already reputable or aspiring brands that's already gaining that momentum, so when the individual is already in the position and they see the success that the individual have, they feel comfortable working with that person because they know that like this person is not trying to just benefit off of me. They have their own situation. So it's a mutual win. So I suggest that, any person that, have athletes or work with them, just, find that value that both parties know that they need to grow. And if you don't have that value just quite yet, then, learn, go be around them and add some type of thing that you can add at that moment for you to basically get around. And then when you get around, just do your job of like working the room and networking and finding pieces and looking at their life and finding ways to make people life efficient. And if you can find that, I feel like, you're just going to win. So that's kind of like how I go about that.
Yeah. Makes a ton of sense. As you talk, I swear it just always hits me like, I'm sure you get this from a lot of people, but you're just like wise beyond your years and your working years or these things that you have about you, your awareness, your ways of navigating. I have to call it out. Like it's amazing to see. And I'm like, damn, I wish I had those things earlier in my career. But, because I think like this is who you are, right? And I think you had to have had experiences in life or touch points along the way that helped you to evolve this way. But it's pretty unique. And so I'm so glad to have you here and, able to talk to the audience. Okay. So what else I want to ask you? So, so getting back to your two companies. So, talk to us a bit about like, as people are listening, how should people think about them? Like, who are they for? Who are they not for? I know you said they're two different ones, but should people be thinking of it? People who are listening are either athletes at some level or they're business people. They might represent brands. They might represent agencies. So how should people think about who your companies are for or not for?
Yeah. So if you're an active athlete, Coinlete, and if you if you're a former athlete or just somebody that's wanting to get into the sports world and wanting to learn about business and how to incorporate those business practices into helping athletes or helping yourself, then that's kind of what Bizlete is for. Mm-hmm. So any active athlete that currently is playing, that want to learn more about how to leverage opportunities of, whatever they plan at and getting deals and, executing that process, that's kind of what that platform for is Coinlete. And any person that's like, former, that's wanting to learn how to create their own brand and business and, getting into that world, that's kind of Bizlete. Obviously, I know we didn't talk about this, but I have a couple products that I own. Oh, yeah. Sports drink, the cream. And from that, the process of being able to materialize that, bring it to life. So far, we just did recent contracts with like 7-Eleven and Holiday gas stations and working on like Whole Foods and some of these big distribution channels. And just the process of, I'm only been doing this probably like 3 months. And from 3 months ago to taking on this venture and being able to like immediately come over here and, take it to that level is kind of like why we created Coinlete to help brands out. So I had to show my own case studies to letting them know, like, look, this is what I did with my brand. So this is how it will work for you. Athletes that's doing it, I want to kind of be the example before I tell them to go do something. I want to actually do it myself.
Oh,
So
wow.
individuals that want to learn that and basically put them in that world, that's kind of why I created that Bizlete platform for. So, just giving my experiences of like how I was able to do it and, the thought process behind the products and just the steps that you need to do to make something become successful and appealing. So, that's kind of like the differentiating factors between the two platforms. So, if, as individuals are listening, if they want to go or want to know if you're a brand and you want to, learn how to talk more and incorporate athletes into your company, I will go to Coinlete. If you an agent and you wanting to help and find more deals for your athletes, I'll go to Coinlete. If you an aspiring agent and wanting to learn how to have a competitive advantage to finding players and helping them, then I will go to Bizlete. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Okay.
all really depend on like where you at within your life. But more importantly, if you already ready to go and take on the world, then Coinlete is just a tool to help you be efficient. But if you don't have the skill sets just quite yet and you want to learn before you hop out there, then Bizlete is a platform for you.
Got it. So when you say athlete, you work with both, just to clarify, you work with both collegiate players as well as professional athletes, right? So those platforms are for both.
Yep, solutions at all level. So high
Okay.
school, college, and professional.
Yep. And so again, if it's someone's listening and they're either sitting on the brand side or they're at an agency, a marketing agency, and they have brands that they're representing, there could be opportunities for them to work with your platforms to, get for those athlete relationships and opportunities, right? For more of like that influencer type work and
Exactly.
endorsements. And okay. So I know you kind of got this going at the same time that the name, image, and likeness (NIL) really has taken off. So, is there anything that you want to share around, like, how that just like kind of what NIL has unlocked, or any, what you're seeing?
Um, I'm just seeing a lot of kids at the highest level get a lot of big deals, and a lot of kids that's not essentially in them same shoes, still trying to figure it out and trying to gain skills sets to make them successful and skill sets that they never essentially acquired and had amongst themselves because it's nothing that they never really needed to have at that moment.
Mm,
So, NIL is just obviously it's just a rule really that's allowing athletes to do what they should have been able to do. But now that that rule is, unlocked and now that it's eligible for athletes to essentially monetize off of their name or image, then it just really goes back to, do these athletes have the skill sets to actually execute?
yeah.
And do they have the business intangibles for them to actually understand how to position themselves and leverage their platform and leverage their opportunity? And all those things right there is just kind of like what I'm noticing is just more education and to be needed. Obviously, it's just so new, so a lot of things are still working itself out. The kinks and regulations are still happening, so it's no overall opinion besides me knowing that, like, with this being said, it's going to be a lot of a future generation of people that's going to be needing to learn how to operate and do business. And that's the approach that I take more than I take when it comes to the deals. I just want them to have the skill sets
Mm,
to not know, or to not need anyone, but to be able to position everyone in the right position to, acquire the success that they need. So that's what my mission is. Just really be educating factor into, like, helping them grow and learning how to, sway themselves and leverage their resources and relationships for them to, achieve success, essentially like how I was able to do it.
okay. That's awesome. What would you say your biggest lesson has been so far?
Just always be transparent and
Mm,
never really, never look at an opportunity and value that opportunity more than your morals, and
oh,
always communicate uh, transparency amongst both parties and each individual, because that saves you time in the future for you having to deal with things that you don't want to deal with. Because at the end of the day, providing a high level of transparency when you're communicating kind of weaves out what's not for you or what is for you, and it saves you a
okay.
lot of time.
Uh,
So that's kind of be the biggest thing that I learned, that through my transparency, it's brought me so much efficiency in my life,
ooh,
and I don't have the problems that most individuals tend to have with having to do double work or not having to, be around individuals and doing a lot of things, and then come to find out that's not what that person wanted, this whole time. So I kind of like, be at the beginning very upfront and letting them know, like, this is the highest aspirations of what this opportunity is going to be. This is the lowest thing that's going to happen. Before I even engage into them, are you cool with this or not? The brand, I go to them, this is what, if you're not looking to do this, essentially I can't guarantee that this athlete at this caliber is going to want to take on that opportunity, knowing that this is what they're normally getting and you're offering this and there's no upside with them. So at this moment, I don't want to, commit to telling you that I'm going to do this and it's not going to work. So that transparency that I do and provide to others is kind of like the biggest lesson that I learned, and it helps me, with my success.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of being transparent. I talk about it all the time. Okay, and then we talked about so many things here today. You've been so generous with your time, but if knowing who's listening, people of all ages in marketing, sports, entertainment, as we discussed, if they were to remember one or two things from your episode, what would those one or two things be?
Just the 100%, just the perspective of the abundance, to allow them to, have the mentality and mindset for whatever your aspirations are out here, to, acquire that and position yourself for success. And then, like basically that lesson that we just talked about, just being transparent, with individuals, and just continuing just to position yourself to grow into the person that you need to become in order for you to achieve what you want to achieve.
Okay, good deal. All right, folks. So thank you so much for tuning in. Super glad to have you today. Super glad to know you and count you as one of my people. So have an awesome day. Thank you for your time, and I'll let you go. I heard your phone beeping like crazy.